Hello everybody, this is Alex from Hardcore Guys, being my guide for God of War 2 on Titan difficulty. Today we're doing part 4, the Temple of Lahkesis. I'm starting to actually forget where I'm at in my placements for these things. So technically, yes, the Pegasus section was supposed to be a part of this level, they consider. At least according to IGN, that's where I'm getting most of my, title level names from. But yeah. So these guys are the armored versions of the enemies we had before. They fight pretty much the same way that the other guys do, but they unfortunately have to be attacked and put into circle prompt in order for them to actually be brutalized. Of course, for those that do know about God of War, yes, you can kill them without doing the circle prompt. So you don't need to do it, but it kind of helps. And every chance that I get, I typically just, especially for these guys, I go for a throw. If I have the moment to do it. The reason why I don't throw the ones that are non-armored is because sometimes they just end up living after. But for some reason, it seems like the armored ones usually don't. Usually it seems to be like just an actual kill for them, which is nice. So, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the game's weird, but that's just how it is, I guess. That's just God of War 2 in a nutshell. The Temple of Lahkesis is actually a pretty fun level. It's definitely a relatively memorable level, actually. Especially for God of War just in general, because I feel like God of War has a lot of really nice, memorable sections. I absolutely love God of War. Also, I have a bad habit of clicking in the sticks, so that's why you'll probably see me do the rage every once in a while, maybe. But yeah, you can actually break these skeletons for those that don't know, and I think this is the first introduction of the dogs, maybe? I don't remember. It's been, I don't think we've seen them yet. But anyway, What I tend to do is I just tend to do this, of course. I just kick them back and forth. And whenever you kick them, I think twice or 3 times, I think after the 3rd time, you're gonna kick them, you get the brutal kill for it. So the dogs are not that strong. Also, that's another thing that I end up doing a lot in this game too, is I'm holding block and I'm trying to do something alongside holding block. I'm trying to... I don't let go in time, so I end up accidentally hitting a button, say like square or circle in that instance, and I end up doing an attack that I didn't expect to do. And that's the thing though with this game, is if you're going to be in that animation, you're going to be in that animation. That's why I never really use those very often at all. I'm always the type of person, especially in harder difficulties, where if I know something is super risky and I know that I'm just not going to get much out of it, then I'm not going to worry about it. Because I feel like God of War with the L1 attacks have never really been that strong, but that's just my own personal take on it. I mean, granted, you could probably do some pretty cool combo stuff with it, maybe, but for me personally, I feel like the safest option is just to go for light attacks. That way I can kind of, break out of it if I need to. I'm always trying to, stay one up above the enemies and make sure that they don't get, any hits on me, because, in these types of difficulties, once you get hit, you're pretty much going to take a sizable amount of damage, especially now that we don't really have our god form anymore. So, I think we did, in terms of God of War 2, I can't remember. I think we do technically lose our god powers and we become sort of mortal again, but at the same time, I feel like we lose most of the god powers, but we don't lose all of them. I think we still have god abilities, of course, in us. And spoiler alert for those that don't know anything about God of War, especially the original ones, coming from the fact that Ragnarok just came out not that long ago, and people probably are curious about older God of Wars. But I mean, well, by now he's a god, but spoiler alert, Kratos is the son of Zeus, so he still technically probably would have had his god ability by then, regardless of him, seemingly mortal, especially in God of War 1, but yeah. Alright, the next fight coming up is actually a pretty fun one. This is the true Cerberus fight. And, of course, since Cerberus is supposed to be like one big dog and not just a bunch of different dogs. But it doesn't really matter because, it's just an enemy archetype in this type of game. So, what I tend to do is I just tend to grab the other dogs and just throw them, or kick them, I should say, at the Cerberus. So that way I can get some extra damage on them. And they do quite a bit of damage, though, too. These little buggers can actually kill an armored Centurion, I think that's what they're called. The red guys we fought earlier. They can actually, for the most part, do quite a hefty amount of damage and almost kill them either 1 to 2 hits. So it's pretty nice. But yeah, these guys are pretty fun to fight because you kind of have a nice, health bar to them. you know, you actually have something that kind of reflects how much damage you've been doing to them, because like, you know, you cut off both heads and it's like, okay, they got one head left, that means they're about to die. So that's a pretty unique enemy type, but they don't really use them very often though. They don't use them as much as I thought they, you know, probably would have. There is going to be another Cerberus that does come up later, or Kerberos, you know, if you want to be, you know, proper about it. There's going to be another one of those that does show up later, but that's going to be, of course, a boss fight. And that's when we're going to get the fleece at, which is pretty cool. I remember, like, back then, like, back when I originally played God of War 2, I didn't like the fleece because I just kind of preferred the idea of blocking with my blades and then, you know, parrying back with the blades themselves. And not necessarily the fleece. I also feel like the fleece doesn't do much damage unless it's a projectile. I feel like the fleece's square attack has never really been my favorite type of parry. But the fleece itself is pretty cool. I mean, for what it's worth. So, yeah, coming up here, you got 2 dogs to fight. Nothing, you know, nothing bad. Nothing too big. Nothing too troublesome. Because, again, if you see the dogs, just, you know, grab them and kick them. And what have you. Down here, I think we only have just these 2 chests. And then we have the next climbing section, which, of course, is going to be the same as it always is, where I just pretty much just grab the enemies and throw them down. So, no biggie. No biggie. But, yeah. After this level, we're going to be heading to the Steeds of Time, and then we're going to be going into our first, technically our second main boss fight, but our first boss fight in like a while, I'd say. Because, like, Typhoon, I don't know if he really counts as a boss fight. You could count him as a puzzle boss if you really wanted to, but he's not really much of a boss fight. But that's the thing that I mentioned in, I think the previous episode, was what I liked about God of War 2 was the fact that, sorry. Excuse me, I'm kind of tired. So I yawned quite a bit. The thing I like about God of War 2 is just the amount of bosses that they decided to add was pretty nice. So this section right here, just do the same thing. Just try to find cover if you can. That way, you know, standing behind here gives you pretty much decent cover from the undead soldiers that are going to be shooting arrows at us. Because for some reason, they got an upgrade. For some reason, they get a hell of an upgrade in this game. Speaking of upgrades in this game, wait till we get to the part where we actually get to the last section of the game with the gauntlet, if you know what I'm talking about. That specific gauntlet that you just fight tons of enemies to get to, I think, Clotho, I think her name is. I still haven't looked that up. I'm pretty sure it's Clotho, but yeah, once we get to that section, you're going to notice that the enemies, just for some reason, even though they're enemies that we fought, you know, way back before, they end up becoming enemies that just, for some reason, get like a health upgrade by like a long shot. And I guess you could say, like, well, that's just, you know, a difficulty going up, but I see it more as so, yeah, I guess it is, but it just, I see it more just as an annoying thing to do than anything really else. So, right here, this part is just another puzzle type fight, and what we have to do essentially is kill 3 sirens by using them to, you know, getting them into the circle prompt and then breaking their backs and then having them scream and break the door. So, pretty okay fight. A little bit annoying, especially when you accidentally kill said siren and you know, mess it up. So, that's something to kind of look out for. My trick with sirens, I think this is the first time we get to see the new versions of sirens in this game. My trick with them is I kind of do square triangle attacks, try to get at least some damage on them. And, you know, if you have one with you, what you can do, of course, is the, you know, whole triangle move to where you can, you know, knock them up vertically. And then when you have them in the air, they're pretty much just kind of free reign to get hit. And, you know, if you're like me, where you got lucky right there, you could use that to your advantage to kind of just essentially, you know, continuously hit them. For those that don't know, whenever they do their scream, if you actually roll right before they do their scream, you could avoid the entire scream so that we don't get stuck inside of it. I don't think it works for Perseus, but it should work for them. And I almost nearly die here, but yeah, this is where Prometheus, you know, the rage comes into play, is you get that extra bit of tinky. Something that kind of sucks about this fight particularly is the fact that, like, whenever you kill one of them with the, you know, the circle prompt move, the other one will die with it. But yeah, you can use the rage if you wanted to here to kind of just blitz through this a bit faster. But if you want to kind of keep that rage for later, especially since Theseus is coming up literally like in seconds. Okay, not seconds, but he's coming up in like a few moments, but you know, in the next episode, of course. So yeah, just wait for then, or use it then, or use it for the sirens, whichever one you prefer. But anyway, that's for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time. So take care, everybody.